Okay, eto na naman po ang inyong host, Trix Sevilla 11. Magandang umaga, Pilipinas. Magandang tanghali, Europa. At magandang madaling araw, USA. Actually, itong topic na to, na-topic na siya ng ilang mga vloggers. Pero gusto ko lang din mag-comment sa interview na to ni PBBM sa Melbourne, Australia with Miss Sarah Ferguson. So, etong interview na to, talagang para sa akin, it's a remarkable interview kasi yung mga sagot ng ating Pangulo is talagang uh, para sa akin is excellent. Tumpak na tumpak, tugma doon sa mga tanong ni Miss Sarah Ferguson. Kung tutuusin, iniisip ko nga kung ibang pangulo or ibang tao lang ibinato tong mga interview na 'to, yung mga questions na 'yan, baka mapipikon sila or iba yung magiging reaksyon. Okay, so panoorin natin and then magbigay tayo ng reaksyon sa bawat tanong. Okay, saglit muna pala. Mahina pala yung dating. Okay, so lakasan natin para mas maayos. Okay. So, eto
to compromise it in any way. We are a sovereign
dali lang pala, no? Baguhin natin 'yun. Lagay natin sa 125. Okay. Sorry naman.
nation.
Chinese forces have frequently harassed the Philippine Coast Guard.
We will not allow a single square millimeter of our maritime rights to be trampled upon. The Philippines now finds its
Okay, so ito yung sinasabi niya sa ilang speech niya about the China na sabi niya, I will not allow any square inch or millimeter ba yung sinabi, of our territory na makuha daw ng ibang bansa. Okay? Tuloy natin.
itself on the front line against actions that undermine regional peace, erode regional stability, and threaten regional success.
We will have every ASEAN leader here over the course of the next 2 days. It's very historic.
President Marcos, welcome to 7:30.
Thank you very much indeed.
In your speech to the Australian Parliament, you used unusually strong language. Quoting your own pledge, you said, I will not allow any attempt by any foreign power to take even 1 inch of our sovereign territory. We will not yield. Are you talking about not giving up Philippines' territory in the South China Sea?
Absolutely. It is my sworn duty, and the sworn duty of the entire government of the Republic of the Philippines to defend the Constitution of the Philippines. And the first article of the Constitution is the definition of our territorial waters.
You didn't name China either in your answer or in
Okay, so ang sinasabi dito, medyo manghang din itong tanong ni Miss Sarah Ferguson kasi sabi niya, are you talking about China? Yung sinasabi dito ni PBBM na I will not allow any square inch of our country to be occupied by other countries. That's why Miss Sarah Ferguson asked that question. Are you pertaining to China? And tignan natin yung sagot ni PBBM.
indeed in the speech that you gave to Australia, but it appears to be present in every security move that you make, and indeed behind every speech that we've seen you make recently. How urgent a priority is it to counter the fast-growing military power of China?
Well, we don't see it in those terms. We don't see it as countering the military power of any country whatsoever. It's merely the defense of our territory. We have territorial conflicts with other countries, Malaysia, for example, and Vietnam, but we have come to an arrangement with them, and to resolve any such conflicts peacefully.
So, I mean, I'm right in saying that you don't have that capacity to resolve conflict with China in the same way. Do you actually have direct contact with the Chinese?
We have at several levels. In fact, in January of last year, when I went to Beijing and I visited with President Xi Jinping.
Okay, suppose lang natin dito. So parang ang sinasabi kasi dito ni Ferguson is parang ah, kagaya nung direct contact yung sinasabi niya is parang sinasabi niya na katulad ni former President Duterte na 'di ba alam natin yon na very close siya kay Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping. So eto ngayon yung binabato ni Miss Sara na parang can you not just resolve the conflict, parang sinasabing conflict within China and the Philippines. Pero ito nga yung sagot ni PBBM na ang sinasabi niya, well actually we have parang mga na claims just like Vietnam and ano yung isa?
Okay.
Nakalimutan ko.
That is what I proposed, a kind of hotline between us, so that if there is a message that needed to be sent from one president to another, we can be assured that that message will reach them. And we have sort of established there are several points of contact at the ministerial level, certainly, and the sub-ministerial level as well.
But do you have a personal line to President Xi?
Not yet, I'm afraid.
Let me just ask you this question. I want to come to the what it is that you want from Australia, because that's obviously one.
Okay, so parang kung para sa akin, no, parang pumunta ka ba dito, parang tinatanong niya, what do you want from Australia? So, did you come here para lang dahil may conflict to ask help? Parang gano'n yung pinupunto ni Miss Sara. Pero tignan natin. Bagalan ko nga ng konti ito. Saglit lang. Eto, tignan natin. Okay, ikon natin sa normal. Okay, saglit. Oh!
One of the reasons for your visit and your speech, as well as ASEAN. But the former president of the Philippines, Duterte, was making overtures to China, very strong ones. Have you decisively moved away from Chinese influence and back into America's orbit?
Okay, so ang sinasabi dito is the former president is too close. I mean, close to Xi Jinping. Tapos sabi niya, are you switching? So parang ang sinasabi is, so kung si PRRD noon is close to China, so sa'yo ba, parang nagsiswitch ka na you're closer to US? And then, yun nga yung tanong niya na, ang tinatanong is, para bang ang implication ng tanong niya is, kaya ba pumunta ka dito para mag-ask or ask help from Australia? Tignan po natin yung sagot ni PBBM dito.
I think it's important to make it very, very clear. Whatever the Philippines does because it is in our interest, not because it has been dictated upon us by anyone.
You don't think that your language that you used when you took office and the same language that you used in the Australian Parliament during your visit is a message to China about where you believe your interests lie?
Well, as I explained it to President Xi again, I said it's my duty. I took an oath to defend the Philippines. And anyone who will help me in that regard, I must engage with them.
Was your predecessor getting too close to China?
Well, I think the situation between now and then is quite different. And I'm sure he did what was in his judgment was the best. He did hew a little closer to China rather than the United States. And maybe because things have heated up a little bit. But we have a together with Australia, we have a visiting forces agreement with the United States and Australia. These are the only two countries that we have them with. And we have.
Okay, eto lang din masasabi ko. 'Di ba parang ang sinasabi dito is yung visiting forces agreement. 'Di ba dapat sa panahon ni PRRD, former President Digong, 'di ba ang dapat doon, meron siyang chance na kung hindi niya pinagpatuloy kasi freeze lang niya yung visiting forces agreement Yun yung time sa panahon ni Tatay Digong former President Duterte, yun yung time na pwede na niya sanang i-cancel yung visiting forces agreement Pero anong ginawa? 'Di ba hinold lang niya yon para yung susunod na president, siya ang mag-decide kung itutuloy o hindi. At ano ang ginawa ni PBBM? Nandun yun itinuloy lang niya. Pero actually, it's not PBBM who implemented yung nag-ano diyan, paano ba yung term diyan? Pero it is during the previous administration, which is PRRD's administration, na merong decision dyan kung itutuloy or hindi. Ngayon, ang sinasabi nila is parang pinaparatang kay PBBM na siya yung nag-initiate yung Visiting Forces Agreement, which is nasa ano yan eh, nasa batas yan eh, may pinirmahan sila noon. At saka yung sa panahon ni PRRD, yun ang panahon sana na pwede tayong umalis. Pero hindi eh, hinold niya. Kaya itinuloy lang ni PBBM. And then another thing is, 'di ba, kung maaalala po ninyo, nagpunta si PBBM sa China. Nag-usap sila ni President Xi Jinping, 'di ba? At 'di ba, napag-usapan nila noon about yung sa West Philippine Sea. Ngayon, according to the news na may na parang nangako si Xi Jinping, yan, na hahayaan niya na mangisda yung ating mga kababayan. Pero anong nangyari, 'di ba? Pagbalik lang ni PBBM sa Pilipinas, ilang linggo or basta ilang panahon lang 'yon. Hindi ko alam kung linggo, nakalimutan ko na. Pero ano ang ginawa? 'Di ba, water cannon yung ating mga mangingisda. 'Di ba? So, ano gagawin mo pag ikaw ang
We have a
presidente?
mutual defense treaty with the United States, which has been there for decades.
How important is it, from your point of view, that Australia has chosen to acquire and build a fleet of nuclear-powered submarines?
Well, that decision is an Australian one.
Do you support it?
I support AUKUS. I support the Quad, and I think that this just represents a stronger front in terms of maintaining the peace, maintaining the peace in the South China Sea. It is a response, really, to a differing situation, a more dangerous, more risky situation than we had before.
Why is it more dangerous? Just explain.
Because the potential for outright conflict is much higher now than it was before, and we worry in the Philippines because it could come from not a strategic decision by anyone saying, okay, we're going to war, but just by making some serviceman making a mistake or some action that's misunderstood, and that's why the ongoing attempt is always to try and lower the temperature, ease up on the rhetoric, and
Okay, so ito lang yung nangyayari, 'di ba? Kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, so kung baga pagtalikod lang ni PBBM, and then here comes the water cannon, 'di ba? Ilang beses, hindi pala, ang nauna yata is yung sa radar light, nakalimutan ko anong tawag doon, yung basta yung parang light na inaano doon sa mga kababayan natin na fishermen, and then after that it's the water cannon. And then ilang beses na parang hinarang, 'di ba? So kagaya kanina lang, kahapon lang, meron na naman. So inuudyukan talaga ang ating kababayan, mga fishermen, at sa yung sa mga fishermen natin doon na parang magkagulo kasi sabi nga dito, kahit isang mistake lang na parang nagkagirian at tayo ang nag-trigger diyan sa gulo na yan at naging umpisa ng war, so tayo yung may kasalanan. Kaya ang ginagawa ng ating mga kababayan is, as much as possible, is to lower than the temperature. Kaya nga meron tayong ginagawang mga diplomatic, 'di ba? Diplomatic tawag nito, na kasunduan or pakikipag-usap sa kanila, 'di ba? Nagbibigay tayo nun. Kasi if possible, gusto nating iwasan yun, yung conflict. Pero sila ang nagtitrigger. But then, hanggat naiiwasan natin, iniiwasan.
and communicate and just continue to communicate.
That's why you need the phone, the same phone that Khrushchev and Kennedy had, right?
That's right. Yes.
Well, let me try and understand what you might want from Australia. Would you expect the Australian Navy to come to the defence of Philippines forces in the event of conflicts with China over disputed territory in the South China Sea?
Well, I suppose if we are in a we are in a joint exercise or in a joint operation, then perhaps that would involve Australia in that. But we do not have any formal agreement or treaty in that regard, as we do with the United States.
How would you explain to Australians, to Australian servicemen or women, why they should potentially risk their lives in the aid of Philippines under pressure from China? Why do we belong there?
Well, let me take us back to the Second World War, where the defense of Corregidor and Bataan, which were the outposts that held out longest. But because of that, it delayed the invasion of Australia to the point that the Japanese never invaded Australia, and that if we can stop it at an early stage, nip it at the bud, as it were, then there's no need for it to grow into other areas, other regions, and hopefully, if we can, at best, as I said, keep the peace in the South China Sea. That will be of great advantage to Australia because the peace is maintained.
In relation to the former president,
Okay, so anong sinasabi dito? 'Di ba parang ang sinatanong ni Miss Ferguson ay ano ba yung kailangan? Parang pinapalabas niya dito na lumapit, pumunta diyan kasi isa sa mga agenda ni PBBM na ang pagpunta niya diyan is parang mapalawak yung ugnayan ng Australia and Philippines with regards to the West Philippine Sea. Ngayon, so parang pinapalabas nitong si Miss Ferguson na parang tayo yung nangangailangan. Pero ang sagot, very excellent yung sagot ni PBBM kasi 'di ba ang sinabi niya noong way back in the Second World War o yung World War II. 'Di ba ang sabi niya dahil ang mga Chinese ba yun, ay dapat pumunta sa inyo pero naipit sila or nag-stay sila dahil hinarangan ng Philippines yung mga dapat susugod sa Australia kaya hindi sila diretsong natuloy doon. So, meaning, may utang na loob pa ang Australia sa Pilipinas, di ba? Dahil sa doon sila sa corridor.
It's clear from the outside that there's been some breakdown in the relationship. I mean, do you intend now to invite the ICC to the Philippines to conduct its investigation more fully into former President Duterte's murderous war on drugs?
No, that would be a political move, and what we are we do not play politics with jurisdiction and sovereignty, and the position that we've taken is that we do not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC, and we view it as a threat to sovereignty, simply because the ICC was formed to conduct to provide justice to areas where there is no judiciary, where there is no court system, where there is no police, where there is no peace and order. And that's not the Philippines. And therefore, I don't think that their investigations or their actions apply to the Philippines.
If it's not the ICC, then who provides justice for the
Ang galing ng sagot, di ba? So, hindi niya inaano yung ICC na parang political move yan. So, ang sinasabi dito is yung ano ba yun? Yung sa pagkuha ng ICC is wala silang jurisdiction. At ang sinasabi nga natin, ang ICC is the last court kapag hindi na gumagana yung hustisya at hindi nakakamtan ng mga kababayan, that's the time na pwede nang pumasok ang ICC. So, anong masasabi mo ngayon, Attorney Harry Roque?
the many thousands? I think the number is something like 12 to 30,000 people who were killed in former President Duterte's war on drugs. How do they get justice?
I think we in the Philippines have, as I said, a functioning police force. We have a functioning judiciary, and that it is their responsibility to take care of that. We have made a great deal of progress in that regard, where many policemen have already been removed from service because they've been found to be liable. Their cases have been filed. Many are already in jail.
Do you think it adds up to justice for those people who lost their lives?
Well, what we try to do is to now go back to the families of those and see that perhaps see what we can do to make things right for them, as long as it can be shown, of course, that they were not actually involved in the drug trade. As I said very early on, we're not interested in a small time addict, for example. The addict, you take them to the hospital, you take them to rehab.
You don't shoot them.
We don't.
Okay, so eto lang din. So para sabagay etong maganda nga itong interview na 'to kahit na medyo maanghang yung mga tanong, medyo tough yung mga tanong, medyo harass. Pero para sa'kin, mas okay namang nag-interview ito kaysa doon sa ginawa nung isang, senator sa kanyang speech sa parliament, 'di ba? So, okay, tuloy na.
What we said, we've taken enforcement as far as we can, and it only gets you so far.
Your father was overthrown by a people's revolution, and you are his only son. How do you resist the impulse to authoritarianism?
I have no impulses to authoritarianism.
Kung para sa'kin parang ang sama 'no, parang ang sinasabi dito ni Miss Ferguson is parang, ini-inherit niya or nasa dugong nananalaytay niya yung pagkadiktador or parang ipinasa, puwede ba yun, namamana or minana ni PBBM yung pagiging diktador daw ni, Apo Lakay, which is kasi sabi niya, "How can you resist?" So, parang andiyan sa katawan mo, sa dugo mong nananalaytay yung pagiging diktador, tapos how will you resist?
That's well.
Wow.
Think we have a good system going. We are, I think we've learned to, we have a constitution that we have, that we have gone by for the last 36 years now. We are hoping to make some changes to it. But
Teka lang, putulin ko lang. Kung tutuusin, diktador, hindi naman pagiging diktador yun eh. At saka tignan mo naman itong si PBBM. Mula nung parang wala naman tayo o wala naman ako nakikitang pagiging diktador niya.
no, I've not felt any tug or temptation to make it a more authoritarian system.
You've been a politician for a very long time. You have a very clear understanding of your country's history. And you obviously revere your father. I've seen you talk about him. Do you also understand the costs of his authoritarian rule to people in the Philippines?
Well, it was a very different sort of authoritarian rule. I think when people think of an authoritarian rule, it was non-participatory. Whereas I think the version that my father tried to promote and actually practiced was very much still with the participation of all stakeholders that were involved. It was just a peace and order situation that really dictated the necessity for the declaration of martial law.
Let me just understand the
Saglit. Bakit napatay kang bata ka diyan? I-ano natin.
To make it a more authoritarian system.
You've been a politician for a very long time. You have a very clear understanding of your country's history, and you obviously revere your father.
For the declaration of martial law.
Let me just understand make sure that we're talking about the same thing. I think Amnesty records that during that period, 70,000 people were imprisoned, 34,000.
Okay, so ang sinasabi dito is yung sa martial law. Ngayon, ang martial law, ang pagkakaalam ko lang sa martial law, kaya ito ibinaba ni Apo Lakay noon dahil ang dami ng mga tawag dito, ang dami ng mga addict sa dumadami yung addict and then sa mga guerrilla. So dumadami na and then marami na ring mga komunista na according sa pagkakaintindi ko doon sa kwento ng mga lolo ko at lola ko. So dumadami na yun. Kaya ang martial law is pinag-usapan niya, hindi lang naman si Apo Lakay ang nag-decide diyan. Pinag-usapan yan sa Senado at sila yung nagbigay ng signal na eto gagawin. Kaya parang in-execute lang naman ni yan eh, ni Apo Lakay. Yun ang pagkakaintindi ko. Ngayon, hindi yun pagiging diktador.
1,000 tortured and 3,200 people killed are the numbers. And your father in an interview admitted that over 50,000 were detained. I just want to ask you again, do you accept that there was a human cost
Oh yes,
to that rule?
there always is. It was war, and with war, the death and destruction is inevitable. But this is a war not declared by the government of the Philippines. This was declared a war. These wars were declared on the government of the Philippines, and both of them were. One was to divide the country, and the other one was to remove the present political system by armed struggle.
There is one series of questions that comes up in relation to your father's time, which is of course the question of corruption, which became wholly associated with the Philippines for a long period of time. I think contemporary court judgments acknowledge the atrocities that were committed, but also the plunder of the country's resources. Why wouldn't you want all of that money back in the hands?
Kung tutuusin, medyo may pagkabastos din, no? I mean, parang napaka-tough yung mga questions niya. Pero at least, ang kagandahan naman sa interview na to is, nasagot niya at eto ay mapapanood ng buong mundo at malalaman nila kung ano talaga. I mean, in a way na naipagtanggol din at na-handle din ni PBBM na sagutin ang lahat ng mga questions sa kanya. Isip ko lang paano kaya kung iba ang president na nakaupo ngayon at itatanong yung mga ganyang klaseng tanong. Although yung mga about the martial law, hindi yun tatanong kasi para kay Kwan naman yun, kay PBBM. Okay.
Of the Filipino people?
Well, we the narrative.
May I just ask you why that's funny?
Where that?
Why that's funny? I'm asking you a question about the plundering of large sums of money from the Filipino people.
I'm thinking that maintains, that idea maintains, because it. I take exception to many of the assertions that have been made, and I think we have.
Okay, ulitin natin dito sa part na to kasi parang ang dating na insulto, may pagka-insult kay etong kay Sara dahil tinanong niya about the plunder, yung mga binabrand nila sa administrasyon o na Marcos magnanakaw. Siyempre, itong si PBBM, natawa siya kasi kung tutuusin, sa dami ng mga paratang sa kanila, hanggang ngayon wala pang napapatunayan na ninakaw nga nila, kundi kung tutuusin, ang daming mga kaso. Ang sabi nga ni Takero nung is 900 plus. So, lahat ng mga yon walang napatunayan na those are ill-gotten wealth.
Large sums of money
No,
from the Filipino people.
I'm thinking that maintains, that idea maintains, because it. I take exception to many of the assertions that have been made, and I think we have since the cases were filed, the government fell. Cases were filed against me, my family, the estate, etc. And up to now,
Exactly, yeah.
we have found the assertions that were made, we have shown to be untrue.
Quite a lot of money. I think 5 billion was already recovered. I guess the question is just this: do you not want to see all the money that was taken returned to the people?
We have.
Again, ang dami daw, no? Parang ang dami niyong ninakaw. Parang ang sakit sa dibdib, no? Pero at least, I mean, sa lahat ng mga paratang sa kanila, Marcos magnanakaw, kailan lang, di ba, lumabas na naman yung resulta na prove nila na hindi pa rin. Parang, I mean, nanalo pa rin sila
this
sa
family has signed a quit claim.
So,
signed many quit claims. Any money that you find is yours. And finish. And we everything was taken from us. We went to we were taken to Hawaii. Everything was taken from us. We had nothing left.
Not the view of the Presidential Commission.
I'm sorry?
Okay, so eto lang. May napanood ako na parang interview kay First Lady Imelda Marcos na totoo naman na noong sila when they were exiled to Hawaii. So yung umalis sila na parang wala silang kahit ano na nadala, na parang sabi nga ni PBBM, everything was taken from us. So everything. Yung alam mo yung namuhay ka na medyo marangya tapos biglang ikaw yung parang mamamalimos buti na lang yung sa Filipino community doon na according sa mga kwento is sila yung nagtulong-tulong, the Filipino community in Hawaii. So, nagtulong-tulong sila para mabigyan sila ng mas maayos ng konti. Pero ang hirap parang nung pinapanood ko yun, ang hirap-hirap na parang damhin na mararamdaman mo kung paano sila naghirap din nung nandun sila sa Hawaii na wala man lang perang maibili. So yun yung kwento ni former President Imelda Marcos. Ewan ko kung si Gadi yata yung nagkwento dun.
Not the view of the Presidential Commission. This is my final question on this topic.
Which presidential commission?
In the Philippines, their view is there's a large amount of money outstanding.
I think that having seen the facts as they have been slowly revealed, with further true investigation, not propaganda, but actual true investigation, like court cases and investigations by all kinds of NGOs, different agencies. Since that has changed, and people can see that it was propaganda.
I suppose the question is, other countries.
Yes, so it was a propaganda na ginagamit nila kahit noong campaign, di ba, nung nag-run itong si Pbbm, sinasabi nila is, ang tinatag nila sa kanya is Marcos magnanakaw. Pero hanggang ngayon, wala pa silang napapatunayan at lahat nga, sabi ko nga kanina, lahat ng mga kaso nila, isa-isang nadidischarge. Okay?
In the region, including Australia, want to know that the Philippines and you in particular, as a Marcos, have come to terms with your family's history.
There was a time when the issue was Marcos. That's not the case anymore. And that's why I think the best proof of that is my election.
President Marcos, thank you very much indeed for speaking to 730.
Thank you.
Okay, ang isa pa dito is, di ba, sa World Book of, sa Guinness Book of Record, di ba, may mga ano doon tag din na magnanakaw and about the martial law, pero di ba, kamakailan lang biglang nawala doon. Okay, di ba? So at least, unti-unting nalinis nila ang kanilang pangalan. And that ends the interview. Sana magustuhan ninyo. And for me, it's a remarkable interview dahil our president was able to, what you call this? Was able to answer the questions in a tactful manner. Okay? So this is your host again, Trixie Villa 11. Thank you so much.